Pro tip, potions, future of beauty, collagen drinks that make you glow.
Well, you are glowing.
Am I? Thank you. So, after our last meeting, I had this feeling. I can't explain it, but it gnawed at me. Did you know that Missoni is doing a plus-size capsule collection?
I did not.
And Temperley is doing big gals for Target. Something is happening.
Well, statistically...
Exactly. Women are getting bigger, especially those who work. I mean, you have to be absolutely fanatical to stay under a size 2. I never talk about this around here, but menopause, peri in my case, you know me, always have to be first. Suddenly I had this middle. My chef had to cut absolutely everything white out of my menu. You can do things for the face, the body, even the hands, but the waist, you have to attack. Around here, you start looking like somebody's grandmother, you're out. Martha Stewart can get away with it. She sells hot glue guns. But tastemakers, no. Mark my word. It won't happen to me. I will not be left behind.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy Levy, journalist and former editor-in-chief of both Glamour and Self magazines, and I'm here with 2 of the stars of the deliciously twisted show Dietland, which is going to debut in June on AMC. Julianna Margulies and Joy Nash, and the show's executive producer, creator, and writer, Marti Noxon. Julianna and Joy, let's start with you. What exactly was happening in that scene?
Oh, God.
What is happening in the scenes with Kitty?
So Kitty, sorry, it's loud. Kitty's just discovered someone's given her these collagen drinks that do make you glow. She's always looking for the fountain of youth constantly. I think the idea of aging for her is really unacceptable. Mm-hmm. And Joy's character, Plum, has come in because I called her in, and she thinks she's in trouble. That I'm going to bring up something that she did, which I don't know about, and instead I start talking about this plus size at Target. And so you
so
see...
So hot right now.
It's so hot right now. So hot. You see the relief on Plum's face, but I also, it's one of those characters, and in that moment, her talking about, having to stay under a size 2 and really thinking that she's so narcissistic. She is completely unaware of who she's talking to or that she cares. She just thinks she would care that I go through this stuff.
And what was that scene like for you?
I think Plum is trying to figure out what's happening. Like, here's this powerful woman. She's trying to keep happy. She doesn't want to get fired, but she's from another planet.
And we should say that Plum's job is answering letters that the magazine gets in Kitty's voice.
Yes.
Right, and my character calls them my girls, because I have a successful magazine, and she answers the letters because the letters are they're from girls who have problems, and Kitty doesn't have any.
But Plum knows how to answer them. She's got her finger on the pulse.
Right.
Marti, despite its title, this show actually doesn't have all that much to do with dieting. A little, but not a lot. Tell us briefly what it's about and why it is so incredibly well-timed.
Gosh, I mean, it's a tough one to summarize, but I always say it's about challenging the status quo, both, in yourself and in the world. When I first read the book, I was attracted to it because anything as a former anorexic, anything with the word diet in it, I'm immediately like, but then, but the cover had a cupcake with a grenade pin on it. And I was like, oh, I need to read this. Mm-hmm. And it is not just anti-diet, it is this entire screed against all the things that women have accepted as the status quo. Things within ourselves, ideas we had about being women that we just thought, well, that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. And then also, ideas in the world, like, the cost of going on a date and drinking too much is maybe getting raped. oh, wow, and as I read further, I just kept blowing my mind. And I got to a certain scene and I thought, I've got to get the rights to this. I've got to do it for TV. This could be Buffy for the next generation.
Yes,
So-
and we should mention that Marti was the lead writer on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so let us now bow down. Joy, you created a YouTube series about 11 years ago, although incredibly relevant. It could have been made last week, called Fat Rant, which is really wonderful and is basically exhorting women like Plum Kettle in this show not to wait until they lose weight to sort of start their lives and take themselves seriously. How much did you and didn't you relate to the character of Plum?
I related to her a lot.
This is from Fat Rant, by the way. There you are.
Oh, baby
Baby Joy.
Wow. And man, it's crazy. When I think about that, I just feel like don't ever let anybody tell you can't make a difference. Because I didn't know what I was doing, and I don't think I'd be here today if that hadn't happened. So do what you want.
Right. And when you were cast, though, in Dietland, there was, as I understand it, a little pushback from some of the readers of the book because their beloved Plum Kettle was being played by somebody who they saw as smaller than Plum. There was this feeling of like, oh, Hollywood.
Yeah. And I don't weigh myself often, but the last time I did, I was 293, so I'm only 7 pounds not fat enough. Away from 300, as she is in the book. But more than that, I know what it's, I didn't grow up dieting a whole lot because I was really lucky to come to fat acceptance young. At 18, I read Fatso by Marilyn Wan, and it blew my mind. And even before that, I was surrounded with people who didn't like me and my body. And the way, like, my ultimate rebellion and lifting a middle finger was to like myself. Like,
It's a radical act.
It is. And that's, I don't know why or how, I can't explain it, but my rebellion was to dig my heels in and like myself even more. So it sort of saved me from a lot of dieting.
I love that. Marti, you've said that you know in Hollywood a lot of women who are like Kitty Montgomery.
Yeah.
I love that scene because, as we were saying, she's suddenly discovered plus sizes, and obviously that enthusiasm on her part is not feminism, it's what I call fominism, which is, this faux enthusiasm for all things woke simply because they're trendy.
Right, right.
You've seen that, I trust?
That's great. Oh my gosh, Hollywood is a place of artifice. It's a place that we build, dreams and it's just all about fakery. So, that extends to people. I've sometimes felt like, sometimes I feel like a set, like everything in front is looking good and the back is just all shit. And, like if you came around the back of me, you'd just be like, oh, that's Hollywood, So, but I felt like what was so feminist about writing Kitty, and I kind of feel like, newsflash, women are human beings, right? Like, that's news, apparently, in 2018. We are human beings with all the failings and all the narcissisms and all that actual regular people have,
Meaning the fact that you weren't writing her as an angel, you were writing her as a complicated and in a lot of ways unlikable character.
Right, and we didn't have to get into like the backstory for why Kitty is the way she is. Like to me, I was always feeling like she operates in the same way that, say, a current president does, in that there's like she's like a shark. She just keeps moving and eating, and consuming, but her only goal is to survive. And that's her operating principle. So I felt like, trying to dig into why people in Hollywood are like this, it's all about fear, right? They just want to survive.
Right. Another really important thing for you to know about this show is that in many ways it's a revenge fantasy, because on the opposite side of the political spectrum from Kitty is a feminist organization that is trying to topple the patriarchy. Let's take a look at that.
Sword? Plum, how much time would you say you spent trying to better your outsides?
I don't count exactly.
The average woman devotes almost an hour a day to grooming. That's years in a life, not to mention the dieting and self-loathing.
I know, but that's just how it is.
Who says? Austin? Austin Media is part of the dissatisfaction industrial complex, a hugely profitable machine. They get us to pay them to tell us how broken we are, and then we pay for the products to fix it. But we're never fixed, because there's always some new way we don't please the eye of our big brother beholder. I say, enough. Time to change the game.
But it's not a conspiracy. It's human nature. People like pretty things.
You're not a thing. You are a woman, and you should decorate yourself however it pleases you.
It's a great scene.
Great line. Marty, tell us what we just saw. What is Julia, who's talking to Plum, a member of?
Julia is part of this underground network of feminists who are using guerrilla tactics to topple the patriarchy. And an offshoot of that, a big mystery, I don't want to say too much, but a big mystery in the show is how dangerous is this journey that Plum is on? Is she actually being recruited into another feminist faction called Jennifer that are doing things like dropping predators out of planes while they're still alive? Oops. Oops. Ooh, look what we did. Well, women don't really know how to skydive and stuff, so sometimes we just hit the guy in front of us and they fall out of a plane.
But in all seriousness, so this group that you're alluding to, Jennifer, is killing men who are accused of rape and the mistreatment of women. Now, when the book was written, it was 3 years ago, and this all seemed, basically like a fantasy. But we are seeing misogynists deposed on a fairly regular basis now. Albeit not by being thrown from planes necessarily, but I'm curious how the current landscape changed how you approached writing the series.
That's a good question. I mean, there was a certain point, I remember being in a van here and the Weinstein stuff was coming out and, the world was changing in an instant and people were like, do you think the show will still be relevant? And I was like, great, we're entire course of human history, but we're going to solve this by June 4, 2018. So I just kept saying, I think it will still be relevant. I think, we obviously tailored some of the language and to reflect that we are in a different place. But this is a problem that we're going to have to not, people keep saying this is not normal. The desire is to go back to normal. We can't let that happen.
Mm-hmm. We all know that we're hearing some men say in real life, oh, this whole thing has gone a little too far, and we're scared, we're intimidated, we don't know what to do. Is it safe to say, though, that this show is not going to reassure them?
Well, it's funny, because when I was pitching Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, which I created, which is on Bravo, thank you. There's the people who are watching it. I created that show as a light comedy to talk about sexual politics, to talk about, the difficulties between men and women and how when things are changing so fast, we don't have a handbook, right? Mm-hmm. But I knew only 4 or 5 years ago that I couldn't pitch and sell that in Los Angeles if I said what it was about. Mm. So I had to make it fun and put heels on it. And but I feel look how far and they were scared of it. I remember men saying, could we take divorce out of the title? Women, people don't like divorce. And look at what's happened in the short time. Now that show feels like weak sauce. So yeah, men they should rightly be a little terrified.
So we're less afraid of female rage than we used to be.
No, I think everybody's terrified. I think women are afraid of it. It's really scary how angry I feel. Mm. I need to, no, but what I mean by that is it's a really powerful thing to get in touch with, but it can be really painful and scary. And what we need to, I think, have compassion for is that men are scared too. And we're all just human beings. So if we could talk to each other more about our feelings and not get so offended, you know, and open conversation, I feel like this could be a really important time. But men are angry too, because they've been relegated to a certain kind of, you know, gender definition. Everybody's angry, but the only way to get through it is to talk our way through it.
We all just heard that great line from Julia, you should decorate yourself however you see fit. I'm curious how each of you has come to finding that balance and that sort of personal aesthetic in your own lives. How have you found a way of presenting yourself that feels right and not dictated by someone else's ideals?
That's a great question. I think, I mean, personally, I like a lot of the trappings of femininity, but I see it all as a costume. It's a disguise I wear when I want to affect people in different ways. My worth isn't attached to it, whether I go out without makeup or all done up and in a corset, it doesn't matter.
What about the two of you? Anything?
I think for me, getting older, the beauty of it is you don't really give a shit what people think about you. It's very freeing.
It's true.
And so when I first started out in this business and was doing red carpets and things like that, the clothes someone else thought was right for me, I never felt comfortable. And as I grow older, I go, that's not comfortable. I'll wear this. And you just sort of, for me anyway, it took me a long time because I was very insecure and didn't understand the business. And getting older and more sure of myself, I'm much more secure with who I am at 50 than I was at 25. And so for me, it's about if I feel good, I look good to me. And that's all that matters.
Right. You know who your audience is, and you're looking at her in the mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marty?
I mean, you know, as evidenced by the movie I did and now this, like, I'm still sorting it all out. Like, my whole operating system from the time I was born was that if I was prettier, I would be precious, and then I would be safe. And that's an idea we really step out in the show. Like, if I was the kind of pretty that people thought was precious, then I wouldn't get hurt anymore. Because like all of us, like, bad things happened, and I thought it had something to do with me. So to this day, I still really struggle with, you know, pretty enough, and it's no picnic. You know, I'm 53, and you know, when society tells you that, you know, your vagina is now like a tumbleweed and nobody wants you, and you're invisible, it's very hard. You know, how am I going to stay precious? And it's only now that I'm starting to feel like, oh, maybe precious is about my ideas and who I am, and that I'm a kind person.
But I think what the word precious to me means small.
Oh, interesting.
And a tiny little precious jewel.
Yeah.
And I think women are roaring with rage because we all wanted to be tiny instead of being seen and heard. And I feel like the beauty of becoming a woman and the attributes that happen when you get older is wisdom, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they say youth is wasted on the young, but I feel like we can incorporate who we are as women at any age to not be precious, to be bold and big. And if you don't like it, you don't have to eat at my table. There's plenty of tables around.
Yeah.
Maybe powerful is better than precious.
Yeah.
Joy, I want to end with you.
Great.
You had a really beautiful line in the YouTube video from 11 years ago about treating yourself in the moment the way you would 10 years from now. Can you explain what that means to you?
Yeah, I mean, all we are is getting older. And when you look at a photograph of yourself from 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you think, oh, I was so cute. And typically you also think, I thought my arms were so fat. I was so mad about X, Y, and Z about my body in that picture. And now you're like, what was wrong with me? I was so cute, and I've wasted this time.
So channel that forgiveness and that admiration for your current self before, don't wait for 10 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you all so much, Marti, Julianna, and Joy.
Thank you.